Look into my eyes. Mesmerizing, wouldn't you say? Well, actually, you wouldn't. Not if it weren't for the work of one 18th century doctor and the Victorians' absolute obsession with the paranormal. Today, I'm going to be talking about mesmerism, the chaotic precursor to hypnosis. Animal magnetism. It's a phrase you've most likely heard. One you might even use to describe it to your friends? No? Fair enough. Today, animal magnetism means raw charisma. The kind of charm that would let you secure a hot date or maybe persuade your neighbours to join your chicken worshipping cult. But when German physician Franz Mesmer coined the term in 1775, he meant it quite literally. You see, Mesmer believed that there was an invisible magnetic fluid flowing through every living being. And if you got sick, just make your fluids were blocked. His solution? Manipulate the invisible forces to induce a trance, realigning your fluids and healing your ailments. So you may be wondering, how do you go about manipulating invisible magnetic forces? Enter the bucket. What's that? It's French. Sounds posh. Enter the baquet. Now, ordinarily, a baquet is just a round wooden washtub, but Mesmer's souped-up steampunk version contained layers of crushed glass, metal filings, and magnetized water, and it held bent iron rods which protruded from the lid. Imagine, if you will, a bunch of wealthy French aristocrats sitting around the tub and holding onto the metal rods as if they're trying to get better Wi-Fi in the 1780s. Mesmer would then swish around the room in his lilac silk robe. It's the best that I could find. And he would touch his patients with a magnetized wand, causing them to fall into the crisis. Screaming, twitching, fainting. It was less like a doctor's appointment and more like a very posh ride. And it was popular too. He would often have sessions with up to 200 people. Now, quite naturally, this new upper-class pastime reached the attention of Versailles. King Louis XVI was originally a fan of Mesmer. He actually gave him quite a big stipend to continue his work. But things got a bit complicated when his queen, Marie Antoinette, became an avid fan and joined Mesmer's entourage. This was, of course, before she got beheaded for allegedly telling starving peasants that they should eat cake. I wonder what the opposite of animal magnetism is. Anyway, fueled by jealousy, a royal commission was formed of some of the leading minds of the time, people like Benjamin Franklin and, ironically, Joseph Guillotine. The conclusion? It was all hokum. The magnetic fluid didn't exist and any healing was just in the imagination. Mesmer was ruined. Not financially, but shunned by the medical community, he went into a life of nomadic exile, moving from country to country, but never quite finding the same level of social status or credibility that he had in the past. Meanwhile, his animal magnetism, now called mesmerism more out of insult than anything else, still had some supporters. After all, you can't kill a good idea. While Mesmer faded into obscurity, the Marquis de Puysegur, a French aristocrat and one of Mesmer's top disciples, found you could skip the twitchy, violent crises phase altogether. One day, Puysegur tried magnetizing a local shepherd boy, but instead of screaming and convulsing, he kind of just fell into a deep, tranquil sleep. Strangely enough, he was still able to follow commands, answer questions, and he seemed way smarter than he was before. Puysegur called this artificial somnambulism, basically magnetic sleepwalking. Cut to London 1837. The young Victoria has recently been crowned queen when a charismatic French practitioner called Magnetism de Saint-Nouveau rolls into town. He starts hosting the ultra-fashionable high society gatherings where he's demonstrating this new kind of mesmerism. Suddenly, if you weren't hosting a magnetic manipulation party in your drawing room, you were nobody. And it quickly spilled out of the parlour into the streets, where it spawned a massive lecture culture. Travelling showmen packed out town halls to demonstrate his powers, while rival lecturers hosted angry counterculture demonstrations to expose it as a fraud. London was completely divided. Naturally, the British medical establishment thought that this was complete hokum, all except for one guy, Dr. John Elliotson, the chief physician at University College Hospital. He championed mesmerism so hard that he became a consultant mesmerist to handle pain relief during surgeries at the hospital. In the time before anaesthetic, surely anything's better than biting down on a stick and hoping that your surgeon finishes before you die of shock. Now, as an aside, I want to talk about someone else who got involved in mesmerism around the same time, off the back of attending one of Elliottson's lectures. That person was Charles Dickens, because why not? He is of course involved in everything across the Victorian era. Dickens started learning mesmerism from Elliotson in 1838, and by 1842 he was quite proficient. He would use it as a party trick on his wife from France. Now things get really interesting in 1844 when he travels to Italy to work with a woman called Augusta Delarue. She suffered from facial tics, extreme anxiety and insomnia, and Dickens was actually able to cure some of this over a period of several months. He would talk to her while she was in a deep trance, where she revealed that she was haunted in her subconscious by a phantom. In a way, you could say that Dickens was one of the first psychotherapists decades before the field was invented by people like Sigmund Freud. But anyway, back to Elliotson. His bosses really didn't like the work he was doing as consultant mesmerist, and basically told him, stop doing the magic trick or you're fired. But Elliotson resigned in a blaze of glory. It wasn't done. In 1843, he wrote the gloriously titled Numerous Cases of Surgical Operations Without Pain in the Mesmeric State, with remarks upon the opposition of many members of the Royal Medical and Chirurgical Society and others to the reception of the inestimable blessings of mesmerism. In this book, Elliotson fiercely defended magnetism by showcasing the work of Dr. James Esdale, a Scottish surgeon living in India working for the East India Company. There he performed over 300 mesmeric surgeries, some small-scale ones like tooth extraction, but some much larger ones too, such as leg amputation or cataract surgery, where the patient wouldn't even twitch. It obviously wasn't a trick either. Mortality rates dropped from 50% down to as low as 5%. But in order to get a patient ready for this kind of operation, a mesmerizer would have to spend several hours a day, sometimes for as much as 2 weeks. Now, by the 1850s, chemical anesthetics had been developed, such as ether and chloroform. They worked instantly and were scientifically proven. A lot of the medical establishment, in the face of all the evidence, still didn't believe that magnetism was real. And so once again, mesmerism would fade from the limelight. Or maybe there was another reason for mesmerism's demise. Let's go back to 1841, where another Scottish surgeon, the open-minded skeptic James Braid, was in Manchester attending the show of the French mesmerist Charles Lafontaine. While everyone else in the audience was amazed by Lafontaine's magnetic powers, Braid was focused on the subject, where he saw the hallmark signs of mental fatigue, likely brought down by intense concentration on the mesmerist's hand actions and voice. After a few days of experimenting at home, Braid found that he could achieve the same trance-like state just by getting the subject to stare intently at a shiny metal object. Ooh, where am I? Ah yes, 2 years later, in 1843, Braid published his book New Hypnology, or The Rationale of Nervous Sleep, where he coined the term hypnosis after Hypnos, the Greek god of sleep. Distanced from animal magnetism and grounded in scientific study, it was finally something that the medical community could get behind, albeit slowly and grudgingly. Occultists of the time were split on the matter. Half of them derided Braid for taking away the metaphysical aspect of the trance, whereas the other half claimed that the hypnotic trance could allow them to shift their consciousness out of the body, see through walls, diagnose inner disease, and even let spirits enter their body to talk through them. But that's a story for another time. For now, you are feeling very sleepy. You want to leave a comment and subscribe. Is it working? No? Where did I put my bulb?